All right, for the game, Aaron Donald will be out. Traven Howard will be out. Terrell Lewis will be out. David Long will be out. Lance McCutcheon will be questionable. Brandon Powell will be questionable. John Wofford will be questionable. And Troy Hill will be questionable. You guys go ahead.
Sarah?
Sean, can you take us through the process of deciding to claim Baker and whether you expect him to start on Thursday?
Yeah. So, when you have a player of his caliber come available and you look at just the circumstances and the situation surrounding our quarterback room, we felt like it was the right move for us. He's a guy that I've always respected his game, liked a lot of things that he brings to the table. I've known him a little bit, just going back to even when we rode out to the combine together when he was training in LA and we sat next to each other on the Southwest flight, with it being the only direct flight from LAX to Indianapolis. So, as far as his status for tomorrow, we're working through that kind of stuff. We just finished up. I mean, he literally just got here last night. Incredibly sharp guy. It was good to be able to be around him, but really we felt like it upgraded our quarterback room, gives us a chance to, to have him in the building, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll take it a day at a time.
Do you think guys would have made a move to add to that quarterback room? Like, were you actively looking at that?
It's really a circumstance of, he ends up, getting his release from the Panthers. Obviously, Matthew's on IR. John's neck is a questionable situation. And so you had to address it at some point, and it just so happened that the timing kind of worked out in our favor, but it worked out and we feel good about it.
Thanks, Sean.
Gilbert.
Hey, Sean, you kind of touched on it, taking it, I guess, one day at a time. You have to with the Thursday night football game, but what do you need to see or talk to Baker about to possibly play tomorrow?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I think part of it too is seeing how John feels. But really it's, getting it, to maximize, all the time that we have to be able to get him up to speed. There are some similarities to, systems that he's run in previous years and at previous places where there's a similar vernacular and verbiage, or he might've called one thing, something, and he's like, oh, okay, this is what I've called it. So, we'll really see. I mean, it's 12 o'clock right now. I mean, literally he just got here, about 14 hours ago when we ended up starting to meet with him. So it is very early for me to say anything that would, be accurate, because still got, plenty of time to be able to evaluate and see exactly where that leaves us for tomorrow at 5.
And Sean, one more from me, but just kind of watching the film on Baker, he has some highs and lows throughout his career. What do you want to see him work on, during this time with you with the Rams?
Yeah, I mean, I think, he's a tough competitor. I think it's like anything else. You play each snap as its own separate entity. You want to be able to, when you're throwing the football, play within the rhythm, timing, throw the ball with accuracy and anticipation, understand the intent behind it, get us in and out. I mean, there's so many things that a quarterback's responsible for, but what I've always liked is, he's got the ability to be able to make the throws in the pocket, out of the pocket. He can throw on platform, off platform. He's got great upper body twitch. He's got the ability to be able to create with his legs. And, from my interaction with him, and even just watching him from afar, really smart, sharp, cerebral player that has a great competitiveness to him that you can't help but like.
Thank you, Sean.
Jordan.
Hey, Sean, Liam Cohen talked yesterday about this being an opportunity, adding Baker, being an opportunity to evaluate not just him, but also it helped to help evaluate some of the younger players on the roster, some of the offensive pieces that will be playing. I guess factoring in some of the, not just the situation around him, which is, I would say, maybe adverse considering injuries and missing playmakers, but also factoring in at the same time his struggles this year in particular. What makes you think that you guys can get a full and clean evaluation of him and of the other players?
Yeah, because I think a lot of the evaluation isn't exclusive to what you guys might see on Sundays. It's the weekly rhythm, it's the daily rhythm, how you practice, how you meet, and then how you put yourself in a position to play well in that window of time. And then, just some of the abilities that he has gives you an opportunity to be able to see some different things relative to the skill positions and maybe open up certain portions of your playbook. I think that's probably what Liam was alluding to. I don't want to speak for him, but I know that's how I feel. Whether or not that's reflected in him playing tomorrow night or not, I'm not sure, but we'll know. We'll have at least 4 games after that if it's not tomorrow.
Then real quick, you guys have, I think, till the end of today to decide on David Edwards. Is he going to be shut down for the season?
I think that's most likely the direction we'll go.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Gary.
Would Baker have to show you be able to play tomorrow night?
It's not necessarily that, Gary. It's more about evaluating the totality of some of the other layers to the situation. I would lean towards that he'll be active. Now, whether or not that means that he would play or he would be available in an emergency setting is something that we're going to continue to work through. Kind of like I said, you're still trying to give him the appropriate information. There's so many things that a quarterback's responsible for. And so how do you really try to package enough information to be able to allow him to go play well without overloading him with unnecessary stuff is kind of that balance. I mean, it would be unprecedented from my experiences because of everything that a quarterback's asked to do to bring him in such a short period of time and have him go out there. But I do think that he'd be capable of it if we ask, but we'll take that really, one day at a time until tomorrow.
And do you see him as potentially a long-term guy for you guys as a backup and possible?
Yeah, I would say I've always really liked him, Gary. I think, what I can say in all sincerity is that there's an excitement about being able to work with him for what we know is 5 more weeks. And whether he plays in 5 games or 4 games is to be determined, but I'm excited about that. And I think as we continue to accumulate that information, that kind of will answer itself.
Maria.
You're welcome.
Hey, Sean, from your perspective, when you acquire a new player, you always see something about that player that you think might fit into the Rams room. What might fit that you see in Baker?
I think it's just, the love of the game, the competitor, all the things that he brings, from the traits and characteristics of a quarterback. He's a natural thrower. Like I said, ability to be able to throw in the pocket and out of the pocket. There's a lot of things, whether it be in Cleveland or even in Carolina, that he's been asked to do that are very similar concept carryover to what we've been able to do and some of the things that we have as foundational parts of our offense. So that makes it a little bit easier eval, Maria, but it's kind of all of those things and certainly not exclusive to one of them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kayla.
Hey, Sean.
Hey.
I know that you talked about you and Baker having conversations at the combine. How much familiarity was there when it came? Did you guys scout him in terms of the pre-draft? And also, have you had any conversations with other coaches within the division when it comes to him?
You know what? I didn't really do too much in-depth study because, we had Jared as an established player and you knew that he was going to be an early pick, but just seeing him from afar and, getting to know Lincoln Riley, obviously he's a huge fan, so can't speak highly enough about him. And as soon as we were able to, get Baker, that was one of the first texts that I got was from Coach Riley. And so, have not spoken to any other coaches in the division, but there's always, I've kind of known him since then where you kind of casually keep in touch. And I've always just been a fan of the way that he's carried himself, the way that he competes and a lot of the things that he brings to the table. So I'm excited to work with him.
And then just lastly for me, is there any concern that you have at all when it comes to Baker Mayfield?
No, I don't have any concerns. The only concern would be making sure we put him in the best positions to be successful as it relates to whether he plays tomorrow or not. That'd be the only thing. But as far as him, there's no concerns.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kurt.
Hey, Sean, can you expand on John Wolford? Was that the same neck issue going before the Kansas City? And just with all these moving parts, if you could just kind of summarize the craziness of a game this week with adding all this.
Yeah, you can't make it up at this point. I just you just keep it moving and you don't allow yourself to stress yourself out with the amazing amount of things that are out of your control, whether it be in that situation or relative to this season in general. So what I would say is it is similar because it is such a short turnaround. You're kind of really finding out exactly how he feels tomorrow, and that'll help provide better clarity. We've been cautious with him to be able to give him the best chance to be as strong and feeling as good as possible relative to tomorrow. And so there'll be some agility and adaptability that's necessary based on the information that we gather when we go through pregame warmups. And how we handle that will be, on us to have that, flexibility. But that's kind of what this year's entailed. And I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. I feel bad for John that it's been a thing that's kind of pestered him because I thought he did a really good job the other day. And, we'll see what that means for tomorrow.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Steve.
Hey, Sean, quick conspiracy theory question. you signed, it sounds like you signed at Baker just to help you guys out, but of course, some people are thinking that you also signed him to keep him away from the 49ers. Could you just clarify?
That's not true.
Okay.
Those guys are balling. They're doing their thing. If it was maybe a different circumstance for where our team was at, then maybe that would be something, but it is exclusively a result of just where we're at, and how important it was. We were going to need to add somebody to that quarterback room regardless. And he happened to come available, and that's a good thing. And somebody needs to hit mute.
Okay, so that might be me. And Sean, also just real quick, any shifting on the offensive coaching duties with the running back coach situation?
Thomas will be able to kind of, take that over in addition to being able to kind of still work with the tight ends. But guys like Zach Cromer and Jake Peets are able to seamlessly fill in. And that's where, that's kind of how we'll handle that for the remainder of the way.
All right, we'll wrap up with Dennis, then Nick.
Hey, Coach McVay.
Hey, Dennis.
In terms of leadership qualities, what do you see in Baker?
I think I see a competitor, a guy that knows how to connect with all of his teammates. I think a guy that is unfazed by good or bad, just stays nice and steady and even keeled. And, I like the fieriness. That's kind of what I see. But, again, I'm just getting around him for the first time in some of these competitive settings, that you kind of get a chance to really view that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nick.
Hey, Coach, what are some of the things that you see in Baker Mayfield that he wasn't able to accomplish in the other previous two stops that you feel like would be an asset to you all mentally, as well as, having him move forward? And also, do you feel like a fresh start will be aid in his career as far as moving forward and help you guys obviously as well?
I think he'd be better equipped to answer that, Nick. I just know that I've seen a lot of good things from him. I've also seen a guy that fought his ass through a lot of injuries that a lot of guys wouldn't play through, that I think he kind of gets some unfair criticism because people aren't aware of how much that affects your ability to play the position. But I've seen enough good things. Nobody is perfect. And, the quarterback position, I believe, is the most difficult position in all of sports. But this guy's got the physical capacity, the mental makeup that I think to be a really good player. And I think that's been illustrated, in certain spots. And then I think you got to evaluate that, football is the greatest team sport that there is. So much a part of, those guys shining is a reflection of the circumstances and the settings. And, I'm excited about being able to work with them. I can't speak on anything before then, but I am confident that this guy's got, what it takes to be a really good player.